What's going on? I'm Jaron,
I'm Lucas.
and welcome to the Real Bros Reviews channel. Today we are talking about a movie that I hadn't actually heard of until Lucas mentioned it last week, and it turned out to be a great, fun adventure kind of movie. So yeah, it's called The Kid Detective. It's a Canadian movie, right?
Mm-hmm.
So maybe that's why we haven't heard of it, because go USA. As far as like the internet telling me what I should watch, getting
That's
in
a
my
good point.
feed. Yeah. So, but it was very good. So people should check this out. But before we even get into that, Lucas, why don't you hit him with the summary?
Sure.
You're the
So
plot guy.
the plot guy. So spoiler-free summary would be: it is about a kind of like a washed-up childhood detective who was famous around town for solving mysteries as a kid, but has grown into just this kind of disappointed, morose adult. But he finally gets his big break when a real murder mystery falls into his lap.
Okay.
Mm.
Good summary. All right. So, yeah. So I'll start. I mean, I think the movie had this cool retro quality to it, even though it was set in a pretty modern era. I really liked the choice of music. There's a lot of kind of old timey songs, and I was digging the songs with the '50s chord progression. And I was like doing, oh yeah, CG man, in my head. So it was that, and the total like going to the pop, the soda pop shop, and the diner, and the all that stuff. It was just really fun, and so kind of blending that into a modern kind of feel, almost like maybe Drive did. Yeah, you saw
Yeah.
Drive, right?
I did, yeah. I saw Drive, yeah.
Yeah.
Very similar. It reminded me a lot of Brick, actually, which we had talked about. I don't remember which episode. But,
Yeah, but I haven't seen that yet.
okay.
But it's Ryan
Well,
Johnson, isn't it?
it is Ryan Johnson,
Oh
yeah.
my goodness.
Yes. Reminded me of Brick, but I will say I like this a lot more than I like Brick.
Really? Okay. Did you like it
yeah.
as much as or less than Drive?
I don't know. It's been a while since I've seen that movie. That's Ryan Gosling, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I remember watching the movie and liking it after I saw it, but it didn't leave a lasting impression on me, so
Okay.
maybe
yeah.
that's I liked it more.
Okay, maybe, yeah. And I think we should probably mention, like, genre-wise or tone-wise. I think most of the movie plays, there's a lot of comedic beats, and so it gives this impression of kind of a fun, whimsical kind of movie. But then it has these moments of a kind of like heavy subject matter, and you're like, oh my gosh. There was a couple times I just wasn't expecting what was going on. Like, oh my, okay. So yeah, and I think it's technically got to be rated R, right? But
It is, yeah.
yeah, but I think it just like barely earns that rating. Like, yeah. So I think you'd enjoy this movie if you're into definitely detective movies. It was a fun take on that. It has kind of a noirish feel as well. There's a lot of that. The soundtrack or the score was done really well to give that feel. It kind of feels like you're doing the old Private Eye Gumshoe whole thing. So yeah, if you're into that kind of thing, definitely check it out. If you're into Canada, check it out. Yeah. What do you think? Who do you think would enjoy this?
I love Gumshoe movies, like
Okay.
just old school mystery movies are like some of my favorites. One of my favorite mystery movies of all time is movie Prisoners, which is, I guess, technically it's a mystery.
Okay.
Also like thriller and suspense, but this movie, it just like did the mystery thing super well, but also had like a unique twist on it. So I'll say all the things you said, and also this movie was like surprisingly really funny. I wasn't expecting it to be as funny as it was.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. There was just like a lot of times that I just found myself laughing, and it was great. I love the tone, and so I think if you like funny movies, you'll enjoy it, and also like thoughtful movies. So like the comedy, without getting too much into it, but the comedy kind of lulls you into this sense of the way the movie's tone is going to be, and that allows it to pull a lot of surprises. So
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, yeah. And the humor's it's not slapsticky like you would see maybe with like Will Ferrell. It's a lot more kind of sarcastic and biting. I almost got the impression it was like a dark comedy, kind of like Gone Girl ish,
yeah,
but a
yeah.
little bit more light-hearted than Gone Girl, but closer to that than like Seth Rogen doing his thing, which cracks me up. I'll watch Seth Rogen do anything.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
So, so if you're in it, yeah, comedies / detective movies, I think this will be right up your alley. I think you'll really appreciate it. So, so when we get into spoiler discussion,
Yeah, let's jump into it.
let's jump in. Okay, I'm going to jump in after you. So
Okay.
lead us.
So one of my favorite things about this movie is kind of like I said, how the tone kind of puts you in the expectation that this movie is going to go very differently than it does. And probably like 2/3 of the way through the movie, maybe 3/4 of the way through the movie, it like takes a really dramatic turn, and there's a lot of really cool payoffs later on down the line. So the main thing is they set up early in the story that he's this washed up adult kid detective because he failed to solve this childhood abduction mystery when he was a kid, and that kind of haunts him for his whole life.
Especially because they frame it as the whole town was kind of counting on him to solve it.
Right. Yeah,
And
exactly.
All this pressure on him, much of which I think the movie communicates was kind of self-imposed, but
Totally.
but he totally felt that, and that's kind of why he's this washed-up guy. He's like lost his groove, so it's a lot about getting his groove back.
Yeah, totally. And yeah, he really takes that on, puts it on his shoulders, and he's super like sad and like somber and just kind of deadpan the whole movie. And you know, it's kind of shown that he has like a drug addiction. So anyway, yeah, they set up early in the movie that like that is why he is the way he is. And they pay it off really well when they bring that mystery back in and connect it to the current one, the current murder mystery, which I thought was like a really, really smart way to tie in a backstory, which is something that we had talked about in a previous video.
Yes.
And was one of the first things that I thought of after this movie ended was like, this is how you integrate a character's backstory and make it like integral to the plot, because it ultimately does become a payoff and is directly connected to all the conflict that he faces in the movie. So yeah, that was great. It was such a like perfect example of something that we were just talking about.
Yeah.
So.
All right. So I got to ask you. There's a scene where early in the movie where he's talking about how when I was a kid I loved solving all the crimes and watching movies, that I always figure out who the bad guy was in the second act. I'm like, all right, so the movie's kind of challenging us. Can we figure it out by the second act? Did you figure out the movie? Did you figure out who the bad guy was?
So the way I watch a lot of movies, especially mystery movies, is I try to like not spend too much time like figuring out what the problem is or like who the killer is or whatever. And I think it might be just a habit of like trying to see what the underlying themes are and like the structure of the story, because a lot of times like those things are the more interesting things to me. So I guess I don't know if I should say I try to, because it's almost like a natural kind of like when my mind starts going into like, oh, could it be this person? It could be, but like, are they going to surprise me? Like, how are they going to surprise me? So that was kind of where my mind went. I will say, so it is, spoiler again, it is the principal. So when the principal shows up in the first scene that he interacts with Abe, I think his name's Abe, right? Yeah. When he first sits down with Abe and he's talking about, helping him with the current mystery or whatever, it did pop into my mind that like maybe it was that guy because he has like access to all the kids and like the locker was cleared. So like those things popped into my mind, but almost immediately I like shuffled that away and like just tried to focus on what was going on. So yeah, I don't know. Did you?
No. I feel really bad because like I've been on this kick of reading mystery novels and detective movies and stuff, but it actually kind of came as a little bit of a surprise because the principal didn't really register as much of a character to me early in the movie.
Yeah, for sure.
So he had. I hardly even remember him before he goes to the school and investigates, and he says, "You're not allowed to be on school property." I was like, "Who's he talking to?" Oh, I guess that's the principal. But was he in the movie earlier than that, like visually?
No, I don't think so. I mean, maybe he was, but I don't remember him being any earlier than that. Yeah.
Okay.
I think they mentioned him.
They mentioned him. They
right.
mentioned that he talked to the principal because someone stole the money from the safe or whatever for the pet hospital. But it was. I don't think that we visually see him, but I want to watch it again and see what kind of clues they were dropping. I think since I've also been working on the visual storytelling video essay I've been working on, I was watching the movie. I kept getting distracted from the details by looking at like how the shots were constructed or the colors of things. So that's why it took me so long to watch the movie. I wrote out this whole page of a sequence. There's this one sequence that was just really beautiful to me. I was trying to determine if it had any meaning. Let me see. Where's my notebook? Okay, well, I'll just have to speak from the heart. So there's a.
As the crow flies.
As the crow flies. So there's a sequence of shots where it starts with a wide shot of the whole city, and you can see everything from like a landmass in the background to a body of water, which is split color-wise between, I think, the shallow and the deeper part. And then there's the city line, and then like a tree line with power lines mixed into it. And then the whole thing in the front seemed to be framed by some trees. And I just thought it was such a beautiful frame. And I'm like, this is great. And it had a lot of horizontal lines. I'm like, that's just interesting to me. And then right after that, it cuts to, I'm trying to remember. So there's a shot of a street, and a car drives from left to right across. And then it cuts to the seagull walking left to right, and then a cat walking left to right, and then an old woman walking left to right, and then a biker biking to the left to right, and a car passes him going left to right, and then it cuts to an alley that says, it kind of stops and says no parking. You're like, what? And then it cuts to Abe walking to the left, or left to right. So I'm like, there's all this motion going that way in like progressive fashion. I thought this is like, I'm blown away by this. And
that's really cool.
So it's a little bit of a spoiler for a video essay that I'll be working on is I've been noticing a lot of the lateral movements of a camera. And so the opening shot where we see the young girl who gets kidnapped, who causes this whole trauma for Abe, the main character, she's walking down the sidewalk from the right to the left, which in film psychology is seen as like negative or going the wrong way, or you might be a bad guy. So I'm like, what is this chick up to? And then that's when she gets kidnapped, and the car also drives right to left, and it's like, oh my gosh, that's so I was like, oh, the movie communicated that using regular film conventions. But then so much of the other part of the films, anytime Abe is on his way to investigate a crime or a scene or question someone, he's going from the left side to the right side, which is like the progressive good direction. So yeah, I was just noticing a lot of those kinds of shots or parallel structures. Like there's there is a scene early in the movie where he's in his treehouse and he's being his kid detective, and he's talking to a potential client, and the way that it's shot is he's kind of on the left side with the desk, and then you see over the shoulder shot from the perspective of the client. And then later when he has his grown up office, they do a shot that's framed exactly the same way. He's sitting on the same side and the customer is on the other side. So I've been noticing a lot more of that stuff as I'm watching movies, and I just think it's really fun seeing what a director tries to communicate just by where things are placed in the camera.
Totally. Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, a lot of those things that you're like calling out kind of line up with, I think, the theme of the movie, which to me was communicating like a coming of age story, where he's almost like a child still.
Yeah, he gets kind of stuck in his childhood phase.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and it's very blatant in the movie, and they play a lot of it for laughs, which is where a lot of the like hilarity comes from.
Yeah.
Is he's just kind of acting like a kid, or in situations that a kid would find themselves in. A couple things that come to mind are like him continually getting stuck in the closet.
Yeah.
Where he's like breaking into homes, and he just gets like trapped in the closet because the people come home, and it's just so funny. But yeah, that like it's like obviously symbolic of him being kind of trapped in this childlike state, and even as the movie progresses and he like keeps getting stuck in the closet, and he breaks into the principal's house and he like tries to change it up, and he learns and grows a little bit, but it's still like he hides under the bed, and so it's just like
all right, he's growing a little bit.
Yeah.
And
So go ahead.
I think there's a lot of lines of dialogue that back that up too, where his state of his mind is kind of stuck in this kind of optimistic childhood state, and I think that's why a lot of the scenes where they're not saying anything, it's just a shot of the characters, they're playing old timey music reminiscent of like a happier time, and there's a lot of dialogue where he doesn't understand what's going on, because they try to break into the school, he's like, oh man, they bolted up the vent. That's what he would do as a kid. Or like, oh, they used to call this bar the steamer, but now it's called the boiler room. Or like, people are so cynical these days, like, so he kept saying stuff like that. And it's he's one of those characters who doesn't feel like he fits into the world anymore, and so he has to find his place. And so yeah, I think you're right, the movie communicates a lot through the situations he finds himself in, the use of cinematography, and the kinds of like progressive movement shots that are I think telling us you can't be stuck into where you were before, you gotta like find a way to move on.
Yeah,
Which
totally.
I think that's a really good message for this kind of movie.
I loved it. I was so impressed and like surprised by it, because I just thought it was like perfectly set up. It was just like so great. And a lot of movies, I think I'm used to a lot of movies with this kind of tone and this kind of character who's like stuck in the past and like has a conviction. I'm used to seeing that kind of thing played out in like a positive way, where they take that and they're the on the outside, everybody doesn't believe in them anymore, and they find some way later on in the movie to kind of evolve whatever that belief is and show the whole world that like they were right all along, and they get the goal, they get the girl, they solve the mystery, whatever it is. And in this movie it's more of it's kind of like a bittersweet thing. He solves the mystery and he becomes famous, and then he gets a new house, his parents are proud of him, like all these things happen, and at the end of the movie he has to like finally grieve and let go of this like life that he's held on to for years and years and years. And it was just a great moment.
And that's true, because the last shot of the movie is like very cathartic, and he just kind of breaks down and finally cries, and he's probably had like just those emotions locked up for years. Question: did he get a new house, or did he just clean his house?
I thought he got a new house. Maybe he just got rid of the roommate.
Yeah, I was. So this is where the visual similarities come through again. So I noticed that in the new house, they use the same shot composition when his parents walk into the kitchen. Earlier in the movie, they come into the kitchen and everything's messy and the sink's full of dishes and all that. But at the end, when he has either a new house or he cleaned it, it even has like a cooler tone. The whole thing looks a little more bluish and softer than instead of like dirty and brown. But yeah, so everything's clean, and then it looked like he had got a new couch too, because I think it was a leather brown couch earlier, and now it's like a fabric blue couch at the end. So I wasn't sure if he moved into a new place or he just got rid of the roommate for some reason and got clean. He did mention hiring a housekeeper.
Right. Yeah.
So I don't know.
That totally makes sense to me if he kept it, but it's clean now.
Yeah, I don't know. But I wouldn't have known that unless I'd noticed that they framed the kitchen shot the same way.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, it's all that visual storytelling that you're paying attention to.
Visual storytelling, it's the future or the past or all of it. Yeah. And then what do you think of? So the content was kind of like heavy because there was a lot of content warning. There's talk of like sexual assault and like pedophilia throughout the movie. That's hinted at, and then it turns out that's what the bad guy was doing. So how did you feel when the movie like shifted and he has that confrontation with the principal at the end, and you find out everything that he's been doing, and it just kind of takes this dip into darkness. Even the whole rest of the movie's been kind of like funny.
I was actually just thinking of that. I thought it was like kind of like I mentioned earlier. It just sets you up so well to be like this lighthearted, like fun movie, that when it does that, it's just, and it does it so well that it really, I don't know, it just has a greater impact. It feels like you fell from a greater height. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because when you're in like an intense, dark mystery, you're kind of expecting the things to get intense and dark and, that kind of thing. But when the movie is so lighthearted, and it takes that turn, the fall is from a greater height. So, and I just thought they set him up to be kind of vulnerable throughout the whole movie. The only time he really asserts himself against another person is against some like punk kids, and he's like supposedly high on drugs.
Yeah, with the magic self-confidence pill, the ego boost pills.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So like outside of that one situation, every time he faces another person, an adult usually, like he's super vulnerable. So that setup also just made that exchange super intense, because I'm thinking like he's sitting across from this old man, and I'm thinking in my head like, well, he's an old man, but like he's this character, the main character, is like kind of a wimp for the whole movie.
He's pretty
so like
feeble.
yeah, so like I don't know what's gonna happen, and it's not like he's holding his cards close to his chest. Like he just tells him everything that he knows, and when he does that, like it just gets more and more intense, because you're thinking like, what the heck is this guy gonna do? And then he brings out a knife, and you're like, oh my gosh, this is crazy.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was just on the edge of my seat that whole time, and I love that in mystery movies. So yeah, what did you think?
So that was the part where I was really enjoying the movie the whole time. Like, I love this. This is great. And then when it kind of took that dip, I was like, oh man, I don't know how I feel about this anymore. But not from I think the movie's bad, but it's just that feeling was just so kind of dark and uncomfortable, really. And now that we're talking about it and think about it, I get the impression that tonal shift was done on purpose, because that makes the audience feel exactly what Abe is feeling, that you can't, life isn't all jokes and fun and being optimistic about everything and trying to fit your optimism into the world, but sometimes coming to reality and growing up means that you have to accept things can be dark sometimes.
Yeah.
And so even though so after that happens, and the principal like stabbed himself, and then he calls it in or whatever, and then he gets all the acclaim. I still feel like the movie, it took a little bit of an upward slope feeling wise, but it didn't quite reach that same like kind of happy emotional peak where we were at most of the movie. It just kind of like went up a little bit. So, and I think that's probably why he had to cry at the end, because he's just like living in this new world now, like the way like a baby would cry when it's born. You're in the warmth and happiness of the womb, and then you're out exposed in the cold. You just start wailing, unless you're like a really chill Zen baby. I don't know. So I think it's meant. Not I'm thinking about it, and I want to give the director credit for making us feel what the character's feeling. It's very skillfully, I would add. I think that was pretty good.
Yeah.
yeah. It's very much like a birth. Yeah. I also thought the shot where I don't know if they explain this very well plot wise, detail wise, but when he is in that like the darkest part of his self-doubt, and he's at the party with his roommate and takes all the drugs, and then he wakes up in the garbage, what do you call it, the dump thing.
Yeah,
what's that called?
That
dump thing.
Dumpster.
Dumpster. That's the word.
Okay. The dump thing.
Dumpster. Yeah. So he wakes up naked, kind of in a fetal position in the dumpster.
Yeah.
And then that's when he like takes a shower, and the plot starts to turn around for him at that moment. I thought that was a little bit of kind of a like birth imagery. So he's kind of,
for sure.
Yeah. So there's this other thing that looked vaguely birthy, but I was like, I don't know. It's kind of weird in my head. I don't want to say it out loud. So we'll save that for another time.
Yeah. See if you can spot it in the movie.
See if you can spot what I was talking about. I was like, but yeah. Anyway, yeah, I really like that kind of like him being reborn in different ways, and then even after he comes out of the dumpster and he goes back to talk to Caroline to figure out the next part of the case, there's even a shot where there's a cross on the wall next to him, which is obviously symbolic of a rebirth or resurrection. So I think that's very intentional on their part. That's kind of him being reborn, and in the very end is when it's like when it all hits him, like, I'm now alive again. I gotta cry.
Yeah, no, it was that was like the perfect ending for me. I thought it was like very true and like honest to the tone that it had like taken on at that point.
Yeah, and
I was half wondering if it was gonna just like jump right back up to like cheery and go back to the way it was, but yeah, that ending, it was the kind of ending where like it leaves you with the emotions lingering afterward, and you're thinking about it afterwards. So
we can't go back to the way it was.
We can never go back.
We can never go back. Oh man. Well, yeah. So I mean, overall, I was really loving like everything about this movie. It was very, very well made. I don't even know who these directors are, but good job. We should look this up.
Yeah.
I'm gonna look it up right now.
I think I believe is a first-time director.
Really?
I don't remember what his name is. Yeah, I think so. Which was like really shocking to me. It was such a like, I don't know, sure-footed movie.
Very sure-footed.
Yeah.
Director Evan Morgan, written by Evan Morgan also. Man, he just crushed that.
Yeah.
Way to go, Evan Morgan.
Super impressive.
Yeah. Do you have any other movies, Mr. Evan Morgan? He wrote The Dirties in 2013, The Pedestrian Jar in 2011, and A Pretty Funny Story in 2012.
Wow.
That's all it says on his what else? July Talk, The Garden video short, Day 40 short. Yeah, he's got 6 credits on his filmography on IMDb. So.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, wow. That's very impressive.
Yeah. Even looking at the poster for Kid Detective, it looks kind of like Baby Driver.
It did. Yeah, I noticed that.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah. Okay. And what do you think of Caroline, the girl he's helping throughout the whole movie?
I thought, yeah, she was kind of like the perfect character to be with him because she's still in high school and
Mm-hmm.
um, she's kind of a like an empathetic. Um, I don't know what the word would be. She's kind of like a reflection of him a little bit
Like a
in a lot of
foil?
ways. Yeah, a little bit like a foil, but she's not the opposite. She's just somebody to like display, like everybody calls her a kid and
Yeah.
like looks at her like she's just a child or whatever, and so yeah, it's kind of a way for him, I think, as he goes through the movie to face some of those things
Mm-hmm.
in his own life. So great character, and I thought that actress did like a phenomenal job.
Mm-hmm.
Totally bought that she was that character. So
Yeah. So I got to tell you, I thought the movie would kind of take a turn where she was the bad guy and orchestrating everything.
oh yeah,
Because when she shows up, she's wearing red and black, and then she wears red the whole movie, which is
uh,
it's usually like the color associated with like evil or murder or or intense emotion or passions. I'm like, something is weird with this chick. But then after he has his whole rebirth out of the dumpster, not the dump thing, the dumpster is the word. I noticed then when she shows up, she's then wearing green, and then later she's wearing yellow. I'm like, okay, so is she like one of those shapeshifter archetypes where you don't really know what's going on? And then it's like maybe she's wearing red because it's a red herring. So I was thinking all these things, but one thing that kind of convinced me part of the way that she could be the bad guy is he talks in the movie. His whole mission starts when this girl Caroline comes to him. She's 16. She says, "My boyfriend's just been murdered," and so she enlists him to solve the case. He then goes and he talks to the boyfriend's parents, and one thing the dad says is, "Do you just believe everything everybody tells you? What kind of detective are you?" So I'm like, oh, maybe he shouldn't believe what the girl in red's telling them, because she could be playing all this for who knows why.
yeah,
So, yeah, it kind of leaves you with these, these what ifs scenarios. Like it could be this guy and Calvin. I think Calvin was an obvious red herring. Like I don't think that guy would do anything. He's
Right.
too involved with playing Pong on his computer. That was so funny.
playing Pong.
Yeah. So, but yeah, overall, I thought it all wrapped up really well. It was a very, very neat movie, very well done, well shot, well written, well acted. It's like just top marks everywhere.
Yeah, totally. It was such a great surprise because it was like totally out of the blue movie that I hadn't heard of until last week.
Yeah, how'd you even hear this?
So actually, shout out to Red Letter Media. They suggested the
Oh.
movie.
No way. Okay.
Yeah, and that popped up on my feed, and I was like, oh, I've never heard of this movie. So, yeah,
Okay.
I
Yeah.
thought we should check it
Literally. Yeah. Yeah. You said Kid Detective. I'm like, we already watched Enola Holmes.
out. Yeah, I like this much more.
You liked it much more. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
It was.
yeah.
Yeah. I think I'd say it was a little bit tighter of a movie,
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
but also going for different things. So.
definitely different. Yeah,
Mhm.
very different, but pleasantly surprised. Yeah.
Yeah.
So if well, I hate to throw this in at the end of the review since we've already gone through all the spoilers, but definitely watch this movie.
Yeah. I mean, some people like watching movies after spoilers. I'm
That's
not
true.
that person, but some people are into it.
Yeah, that's
So,
true.
Yeah, but
true.
definitely check this movie out if you like the detective, satirical kind of humor. Yeah, I think you'll really dig it. So I think that's kind of wrapping it up for the review. I don't have much more to add.
Yeah.
If I had my notebook, I could double check this, but who cares where it went? It's all right. I'll put in the comments if there's anything important.
There you go.
Okay, so what should people be looking out for next?
Yeah.
I got my
you have
video.
Yeah,
Okay,
video
so
essay.
next thing coming up, it's going to be a video essay by me, Jaren, yours truly. We're going to be looking at how to learn and watch for visual storytelling in Batman v Superman and a little bit of Jurassic Park. And I was looking for any excuse to make a video essay on these, so I'm really excited about it. But yeah, this came out of one of our comments saying, hey, you guys should do a film analysis 101 kind of thing. So this is one subject where we wanted to kind of give a little lesson on it. So hopefully you guys dig it. I think I could get it up and going next week or in the next couple days. So, cool. But I won't make any promises.
No promises. Yeah, but it's done when it's done.
It's done when it's done. But I'll try to get it done really fast.
Cool. Yep.
All right.
And I think the next thing we have planned is together is WandaVision, right? Is that what we're doing next?
We gotta do. Well, that finishes March 9th, so we could probably watch.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll probably have time for another movie before then. Maybe we could actually have a whole BVS discussion before then, because we gotta do that before Snyder Cut.
When does Snyder Cut come out?
March 18th.
Oh man, yeah, we gotta get on that.
Yeah, we have a whole month as of filming. It's the 18th.
Okay, well, maybe that's next.
Maybe that's next. Who knows? Or maybe Lucas will just text me like, "Hey, I heard of this movie. Let's watch it." It'll probably be really good.
Yeah.
All right. Well, want to close this out, sir?
Yeah. Thanks for watching, you guys. If you like what you see or you have any suggestions, please let us know. Liking and subscribing is a huge help to us. And we would love to hear what you think in the comments. If you have anything to say, if you've seen Kid Detective, if you want to see it, let us know. And we'll see you guys soon.
All right. Love you guys. Peace.